Hi. So how does it feel to be here in back in my so is this the second time?
Second time, first time was actually for the Dhaka Lit Fest in 2012, and I'd also come with my play called Between the Lines, which we had performed here.
Wonderful. So this is the second time, and this time you came here with the famous movie Manto that you directed. So how do you feel about the Bangladesh premiere of Manto?
No, I'm very excited. It has gone to many film festivals. It started its journey from the Cannes Film Festival, which is one of the most prestigious festivals in the world, so it was a great honor. Then we went to Sydney and Toronto and London and Busan in Korea and many places. But this is the first screening which is like a public screening, which is not in a film festival. It got released in India, and we were really trying to release it in Bangladesh. But unfortunately, the rules are very strict between our countries, which is such a tragedy that we can go, miles away and to so many other countries, crossing the seven seas, but we can't go as easily to our neighboring countries. So, and Manto talks about issues that I feel are common to our entire subcontinent, because he talks about identity, identity of nationality, religion, how to go beyond that and, talk about the human identity. And he was also a big champion of freedom of expression. And as you know, whether it's in this country or ours or in the whole subcontinent, freedom of expression is really under threat. So we all have to sort of fight for it. And I think Manto is great inspiration.
Wonderful. So maybe 1 or 2 years back, I read an article written by you in Scroll. It was maybe an interview of Manto's daughters. So I think that writing tells me that you have done a lot of research before you actually sat down to directing the movie. So can we get a glimpse of that,
Yeah.
the research?
Yes, it almost took me 4 to 5 years because I kind of rediscovered Manto in 2012. I'd read him in college, but in 2012, which was his centenary celebration, that's when a lot of people started writing about Manto. And also, I started reading his essays. And I thought this man is so relevant, he's so modern, he's talking about things that we are grappling with. So I did a lot of research through his own work, and I'm not really from a Urdu-speaking family. I don't read the Urdu script, so I had to take the help of many people. I read some in translation, but obviously I had to read the original to make a script. And so it took me 4 to 5 years, and then of course I had to meet the family because there are some small nuggets and anecdotes that you will never find in any book. So I went to Lahore a few times and met his daughters, met his sister-in-law because she's in her late 70s and she had many memories of Manto. And also in the film, the wife's character is really important, and very little has been written about the wife. So I had to meet the family to also create that character. So I think it really helped, and they have given me unconditional support and a lot of love. So I'm very grateful for that.
It must be wonderful experience for you.
Absolutely, yeah. Very
Okay.
tiring and challenging
Okay.
because when you're making a script from so much material, Mantu was very prolific. He died only at the age of 42, but he left behind more than 300 short stories, hundreds of essays, radio plays. So I had to read a lot and then to weave a story for an audience which 90% will not even know who Manto was. So it was a very challenging task to build a story that would be equally interesting for someone who knows a lot about Manto, because that's your natural ally. They will definitely come to see the film. And to those who know nothing about Manto, and there are many who know a little bit about Manto. So I had to sort of keep that in mind and yet tell the story that I so wanted to tell.
Wonderful. So, Nandita Dash, we actually, uh, you have a huge fan base in Bangladesh, and we actually know you as an actor who acts with a difference, not just mainstream movies, but movies that always have some social political implications. So, from there, you are now working. You worked for this movie as a director. So can we hear something about this shift? How did it feel to actually work as a director, and how was the experience of working with such big actors like Nawaz? You know, uh,
Yeah, for me it was not a shift in the sense I did acting. I never really wanted to be in mainstream cinema. I was always interested in more independent films. And also in Hindi language, the independent films gets a bigger beating because it has to compete with the big sharks, the big Bollywood films. So I started doing a lot of regional films, what we call in India regional. They are as Indian as any other language. So I did 40 films in 10 different languages. আমি যে একটু একটু বাংলা জানি সেটা বেশিরভাগে because I've done বাংলা ছবি চারটে করেছি. So that's how I started doing films, and a lot of those films were based on literature also, stories like great writers and books. And then Firak was my first film, which was in 2008. When the Gujarat riots happened in 2002, it deeply disturbed me, and I saw how religion was being used in politics and what it was doing to people on the ground. And I think it was for me my own catharsis, but at the same time sharing of my concerns. And that's how Firak was born in 2008. And it wasn't distributed properly. I was very disappointed, and I said, I'm never going to make another film. And then 2012, Manto's story compelled me again, and I felt like this is a story I want to tell. I want to respond to what's happening around me, and I feel Manto is the best way to respond to it. That's how Manto was born. So I haven't chosen to be a director. These scripts, these films were not like, these stories were not a choice. I just felt totally compelled to tell, and that's why I wrote both of them. Even though I'm not a trained writer director, I've never assisted anybody on a film. I've learnt a lot on the job. But I think if you have many experiences, and my father is a painter, mother a writer, so the kind of upbringing I had, that also helped probably in exposed me to the arts and to a social conscience, because both of them have a very strong social conscience. I think some of it, I mean, they passed it on to me, and I'm grateful for that. So for me, it's not really a shift. In fact, now it's the first time I'm looking for a story that I want to tell. It's the first time I'm going to make a choice. And I'm getting a lot of offers, thankfully, from producers, there are a lot of scripts that are coming my way, both as an actor and a director. So I have a good problem right now of choosing the right script.
Wonderful. So, how was the experience of working with the cast that you picked?
So Nawaz is someone I worked with in Firak 10 years ago as well. That was his first significant role actually in any Hindi film. And when I started writing, I was thinking, I said, I think Nawaz is the right one. And I told him in 2013, we met in Cannes, and there was no script at that time. And I told him, I said, I'm working on Manto. And he said, oh, I'm going to give you 2 years of my life, whatever you want, I'll do anything for Manto. And then he became a star, and then he didn't have the time to give me 2 years of his life. He barely gave me the exact shooting time. Yeah, but he's such an instinctive actor, and he melts into characters. And because I had done a lot of research, he relied on my interpretation of the character, and completely submitted to it. But he brought with him his experience, his talent, and his beautiful eyes, because I think his eyes are very powerful, and they have gone through a lot of struggle like Manto. So I think that's why there's something very special in his eyes, and I wanted that for Manto.
So that specialty that you speak about, his eyes, I think he also made use of that specialty in his Netflix show, where he usually plays the gangster, and he does it very well. So here he was playing as Manto. So how do you think he actually played that out?
Well, I personally don't like to see violence in films. So both Firak and Manto, even though they are set during violent times, if you see them, there's no violence in the film. And he has done a lot of these underworld and gangster films, and actually I haven't seen any of it. I hadn't even seen Sacred Games, or even before that, all the violent films like Raman Raghav and Gangs of Wasseypur. I've seen parts of it because it's a very well-made film, but I don't like to see violence. But I think he has such a range that we tend to stereotype actors that, oh, if he's done gangster, how can he do such an accomplished writer? But I was trying to explore in Manto not just the writer but the person behind the writing. And I have taken only 4 years of his life in the film, from 1946 to 50. And partition is right in the middle. The court trials, and his good days in Bombay, and what compelled him to go to Lahore, because he was very much in love with Bombay. Why did he even go to Pakistan, and what happened, and how come he wrote his best stories there? And so that period was probably the most significant years in his life, and that in the lives of India and Pakistan too, because of the partition. So that's the period I have taken. And also there are many other actors who've all supported the film, like Rishi Kapoor, and there's a Gurdas Maan who's a musician, and there is Paresh Rawal and Ranveer Shori, Divya Datta, Chandan Rai Shanyal. There are lots of actors who have just helped by doing the film. None of them have taken a penny. Even Nawaz didn't take anything. He took 1 rupee, which also he's refusing
Just
to
1 rupee.
take. That also, every time I give him, I said, no, he tells me that, no, I want you to be owing me this money, so keep it.
Wonderful. So before I get to my last question, uh, I there was a time when I was your huge fan and I used to read about you a lot. So back then I don't remember very clearly, but I read something about you being part of a street theater, a very famous Indian street theater Marxist activist,
It was called Jannatya Manch.
Jannat Manch. Yes. So can we hear something about that experience? How the transformation happened from there to films?
I think everything in your life, what you do, impacts your choices. So I was 17, and my classmate told me that there is this group called Jannat Manch, and Safdar Hashmi is running it.
That was the name I was trying to remember. Guru.
He was my guru, and that was in a way my first socio-political training, because even though I came from an artistic family, and even though we didn't talk about any isms, my parents were they are very inclusive and non-judgmental, and sort of they were secular by instinct, and sort of feminist by instinct, but not without all the political correctness of the words. But in a way, my first political or social training happened with Safdar, because we used to do plays about workers' rights and about communalism and all the social problems of the society. And those 4 years that I worked with Janam were very, very, I think, transformative in a way, because we were passionate, we were idealistic, we thought we were changing the world by doing these street plays. And I really owe a lot to that experience. And I think everything adds on. Then I did my master's in social work, and I worked with NGOs, and then I came into acting. So I think my role from a sort of social activist to a social advocate happened very organically. And today also my engagement, the kind of films that I want to do or I do, are, I think, somewhere I owe it to that whole journey that started with Janam.
Wonderful. So my last question. So tell us something about the DLF. How do you feel about it?
It's a great space. I mean, it's only grown, I think, since 2012 when I last came. I think we all in our kind of countries, the open spaces are shrinking. There aren't enough places where we can debate and discuss and listen to different people, which are open to a lot of young people. Otherwise, on that social media and Facebook, it's become more narcissistic in a way. And even though that's also a good space to share information, but we tend to get into our echo chambers where we listen to what we already know. But here you come and listen to just different people. So DLF is a very well organized, and I think they get fantastic speakers from various international countries, and also authors from here. I've met some incredible people here, and when the space is less, these kind of spaces, I think, in a way, become like the haven for free thinking and arts and ideas and literature, of course. So I'm very happy to be back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm very happy that Manto is being screened here as part of DLF.